Hello, everyone. Welcome to Living Your Strengths with me, Margriet Maton. And with me on the line, I've got Alison Richardson, who is an HR executive in Johannesburg, South Africa. Uh, as an HR executive, in February, everything looked fine. It was business as usual. And then March came, and suddenly the coronavirus is in South Africa. And Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa is talking about lockdown for at least a month or two. How did things change during the lockdown for you as an HR executive?
So for our company, we're very fortunate in that we're an IT company. So we were set up to work from home. But that's the physical part of it. What we weren't expecting was almost the emotional adjustment to working from home. Because what Corona has done, it's removed the social aspect of work. And people are really struggling with that. So our people have been able to carry on working quite easily. We've always worked from home. Most people work from home a day or two a week. But now being home permanently has just changed our business significantly.
Wow. So Alison, how did your company address these emotional issues with employees?
I work for an American IT company, and they've actually been awesome. They have provided the employees with a lot of support. So not only IT support in terms of the physical and the practical aspects of working from home, but also a lot of support, emotional support. So from our employee wellbeing service, we've made sure people know about that. And also occasionally things like ergonomics, so how to work from home, because most people started working from home. They would sit on a dining room chair for hours and their back would get sore and their hips would get sore. So we've been also sharing with employees ergonomics, and sometimes stand up and work for a bit and get up every hour and go for a walk. And we've also made sure that we've connected literally every second Friday, particularly our team in South Africa. We get together virtually and we have like a virtual coffee, and then we catch up on the stuff during the weeks. And then also we do some fun stuff, getting to know each other. So it's been a shift.
Okay, so a total mind shift of how to run virtual teams and individuals then.
Absolutely. Yeah, and most people have adjusted. We found that our younger people are not as productive as people who are more established in the business. So our people who've been with the company for a year or two. So they struggle with a bit of productivity. They also struggle in organizing themselves. So we've had to work more closely with the employees who are younger and new in the business. But people who've been around for quite a while are actually doing really well. And I think when we eventually go back to work, and for us, we're thinking kind of early 2021, that's how far out we're pushing our return to office. I think most people will want to work from home more often than just a day or two a week. So I think the world is shifting in ways that we haven't yet anticipated.
Right. So what I'm hearing is the generation, the millennial generation and Generation Z, there's some additional skills that we might not have anticipated that they need to learn if they wanted to work from home.
Yeah, I think for everybody, it's not just the juniors, it's for all of us. So, for example, I really miss the social aspect of work, and I didn't know that about myself. I thought I'm quite happy to work from home, but I miss collaborating with people. And, it's great to collaborate virtually, but there's something just so great about sitting across the table with a cup of coffee and actually being with each other. So there's lots of people like me who they can't wait to go to the office.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, Alison. I remember when we, after lockdown, drove to our first clients from Johannesburg to Pretoria. It felt like an outing, and we were so excited to see our first clients face to face. So I totally get that.
My friends that it's almost like when you take your dog to a beach, not that we know a beach, and they get so excited and they just run. That's what we feel like when we go and see clients or when we go to the office.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Alison, you are a Gallup certified strengths coach. And you became very excited about strengths in 2019, and you've been coaching people, in the company, and giving them that strengths experience. And I'm quite keen to find out how you, not only your own strengths but also the strengths of the people, in the office, played out during the pandemic.
I've been coaching quite a few people, and I find that people are more open to it. People want to learn. I think it's been a big switch between when they worked in the office and they had to spend time commuting, whereas now people are going, I need to learn stuff. So they've been very open to coaching. So I've been coaching, I think, 9 people in addition to my full-time job. And I've just loved it because people are, I've done 3 sessions with people and they're saying, I've watched myself do this and that, and I've seen how this has shown up, and I've struggled with that. And so they're much more observant and invested in their own learning, which has been awesome.
Mm. That's so great to hear. We've also experienced the same as you, that people are more open to being coached and really want to explore what is going on in their inner world, because not only do they have to work now full day, they also have to they full time with their spouse or their partner, and they full time with kids as well, and that sometimes brings out the best in people, but in other times it brings out the worst in people. And just to have a coach or that a person outside of that experience whom they can bounce off their emotions, their thoughts, and just their circumstances seems to be really helpful to people. Now, Alison, I'm going to put your top 5 strengths on the screen, and we see here that you've got that your top 5 strengths are activator. For the folks at home, activator means that you want to get things started. Okay, so no more meetings. I want to get things, started. Maximizer means taking things from average to excellence. People with achiever, they always have a list of things to do, and they want to tick off that list by the end of the day. Responsibility. People with responsibility take psychological ownership of what they say yes to. And then, Alison, you've also got relator. And when I think about what you just said earlier, you said you miss that personal interaction. And I think that might be your relator. People with relator love to work closely with their friends and colleagues and so on. And maybe that's a good place to start. How did your relator play out during the pandemic lockdown?
So I've really struggled in, being comfortable around being alone so much of the time. So the first 2 months of the lockdown was a hard lockdown, and just being at home and working, I felt very isolated. And then also being separated from my colleagues. So I've really missed that. It's a bit better now that lockdown is lifted and we can get out a bit and we can, see other people. So it's definitely much better now, but it's probably my top 5. That and the activators, the ones that struggle the most. In terms of activator, at the beginning of this year, we had a whole lot of projects planned at work, and I had all my travel lined up, and I was really going to have a strong 2020. And then the world shifted towards the end of March. And I think I'm struggling a little bit there because I want to get things done. I want to get going, projects at work. And a lot of the projects have been shelved, or we're having to change them in a way that we can deliver virtually. And things like training is not always great to deliver virtually because people can't sit for 3 days in a training course. So, my activator is wanting to run ahead, and it actually can't. It's just saying, slow down a bit, and we can't do this now. But all my other strengths are coming to the fore because I don't have to travel. So I'm saving on my time that I can work and time that I can do other things, and my responsibility and my achiever, just fantastic. I can work long hours, I can work at my own pace, and that just absolutely suits me. So that's where my strengths are showing up in a really good way.
That's what I hear from other people who's got achiever and responsibility as well. Because people with achiever and responsibility love to work, as you said, at their own pace, and they don't like micromanagement, and it seems like working from home with very little interruptions seem to be working really well for people with achiever and responsibility.
It does, especially the working at your own pace. So you can work really fast and really quickly and then take a longer break. And it just really does suit me. And also the fact that there are not as many interruptions as there are when you're sitting in your office. So you can really focus on something, deliver at a high level, and also do quite a lot of thought leadership work. Whereas in the office, when you get interrupted, then your train of thought just struggles to get back to where you were. So a lot of my strengths are well suited to the lockdown, and a couple not so much.
Alison, I'm very curious to hear how your maximizer played out, either in the balcony, which means it became very productive, or in the basement, which means that it became disruptive not only for you but for the team as well. Talk to us about your maximizer.
So hopefully it's more balcony, because we've had to shift a lot of things from the way we had originally planned them at the beginning of this year in the workspace. The business is really looking to me to say, how can we do things differently, to come up with solutions around doing the same things but in a different way that also suits the business. So hopefully it's more balcony behavior and just resetting things that will work for our business. But I don't think everybody's got their head around this yet. I think there's still going to be a lot of shifts around the changes, especially the longer it goes on, how it affects the workplace. And I think there's things that we haven't thought about yet that will impact the business and also individuals in how they perform, because this is not for everybody. People are going to struggle, and others like me are going to go, love this, absolutely love this.
Yes, people with maximizer love to grow things. So I get excited when you talk about what's different ways that we can work with this and just help not only our employees but also the business to grow during this unprecedented time.
Yeah, it definitely is. And what we're doing is we're trying to put more people through the strengths assessment so that they can become aware of their own strengths, and then also how they can use that in the workplace. Almost an aha moment, a little bit of an awareness about how people can contribute. So slowly the movement is growing. And I also like to see young people when they've done the strengths assessment, because I think they do then step up in a different way. And that's, I suppose, my maximizer coming out. Yeah, I want to take something from good to great in terms of saying young people have got such amazing potential, but sometimes they just don't push it. As I suppose it's my achiever as well. They're not as good as they could be. So
that's a theme dynamic of achiever and maximizer, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, Alison, if you had some advice for other companies, managers, executives watching this recording, if you had some advice for them, what would you tell them in terms of growing and supporting their employees during this time?
I think it's about unfreezing the way we've always looked at the world and then resetting it and refreezing. But obviously the strengths coaching will also help. And I'm finding that more and more people are asking for the strengths assessment to be done in teams so that they can understand each other. So it's a new way of thinking, and then layering that on top of the strengths assessment to say, how do we encourage the use of the diversity of the team? In South Africa, diversity is always about race and gender. Now we're actually looking at a talent diversity when we look at the strengths, which is fabulous, because people go, okay, so Joe and Mary are really great at ideation, so why don't we get them in when we brainstorm how we do this differently? So it's really benefiting teams, and that makes me excited, where they go, we've got to do things differently. Let's find out who's the best at problem solving at the futuristic. How do we look at, wow, how are things going to shift? And so I think my advice would be is embrace the strengths coaching, and then use it to the benefit of the team, because I think it just leapfrogs you a little bit faster than if you didn't have it around adjusting to this new world of work, because these are strange times. And we don't know how it's going to play out in the next year or two. I did hear on CNN, it says that we will only return to a kind of normal in their summer 2022. So that's a long time. I mean, that's mid-year 2022, our winter. So until then, we're just going to have to find new ways of doing things. And strengths coaching is fabulous from people's own development perspective, but also using the diversity of the strengths in the team to chart a new course. That makes sense.
Absolutely. It makes absolute sense. And I'm so glad that you brought up the work that you're doing with teams, because that's absolutely true. When team members understand not only their own strengths, but also understand the strengths of their colleagues, what motivates them, what energizes them, and what they really care about. It just it makes things easier.
It does. And it also, it allows you to come up with a whole lot of new ways of working that we wouldn't have had to think of if the pandemic didn't happen. So we're being forced to change. And one of the tools that we can use really well is the Gallup Strengths, because it helps people, as you say, understand themselves, how they contribute, but also how they embrace people who are not like them. And they almost say, well, they've got an amazing talent and a strength that we can use in the team, or it can help me with my job, and let me get to know more about that. So I'd really encourage people to do it from an individual perspective, but also from a team perspective.
Fantastic. Alison, this brings us to the end of our interview. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and also your tips with us on the show. Thank you.
Very welcome. Very welcome, Margriet. Take care.